So here we are. We're talking about Chrono Cross. Now, while I did try to make a scripted video for the main channel, it didn't quite work out for me. But I still wanted to talk about it because this game is great. I love Chrono Cross. So I guess this is like the continuation of my best RPG ever series. This feels like a fun way to continue that because even if I'm not going to do it on the main channel with like a scripted thing, I still love playing RPGs, and I still want to figure out what the best is. So we're going to talk about Chrono Cross. We're going to roughly do it in the same format as before, still go through each of the sections. Let's get into it. The gameplay. What is the gameplay like of Chrono Cross? What did I think of it? Well, first of all, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of systems. And it's hard to even think of where to start, really. Because, like, when I think of, like, some games have a gimmick. RPGs will have a gimmick. And that's kind of like their that's their twist on a turn-based RPG. Like, Final Fantasy XII has gambits. When I think of Chrono Cross as, like, gameplay, I can't think of, like, one specific gimmick. There's, like, 50 different things. There's elements. Elements are your spells. And they're each tied to I guess it's kind of a weird name. Each element is tied to a specific element. So there's like Fireball. Fireball is an element you can equip, but it's tied to the element of fire, or red. And there's like water spells, water elements. Those are blue. And I think there's 6 different colors. Blue, red, green, yellow, black, and white. So for each of those, you can see how they're tied to a certain element. Like green is earth or wind or something. Yellow is lightning. You equip each of those to a character. And if you equip like a fireball spell to, the main character Surge, if you equip fireball to them, you can only use that spell once in battle. But you could equip 2 fireball spells, so you could use it twice. So each spell is kind of consumable in battle, but you still keep it after battle. Like if you go into a battle and use your 2 fireball spells, and then, you can't use them anymore in that battle, but when you go into a new battle, you can use them again. So it's kind of consumable, kind of not. I like that balance because I've always hated consumable spells. The first thing I thought of was a Paper Mario sticker star, whereas like you had to, I think even like the base like jump and hammer abilities you had to collect in the world, and you'd only have a certain amount. And granted, you probably would get a lot, like I'm sure you could get a ton of jump like abilities, but still it just sucks to have consumable stuff like that. This is a good balance of having something be consumable so it's meaningful. Each spell you equip has to, it has to have a spot in your mind for you to want to use it in battle. But it's still kind of lenient. You're not wasting abilities if you want to use a fireball on a weak enemy. I like it. There's a whole element grid where you can only equip, like you equip a fireball and you can equip it to like level 5 or level 2, and it'll be stronger or weaker depending on how high or low you equip it to. And there's stamina where you can do stronger or weaker physical attacks. And like, stronger attacks have a lower chance to hit, weaker attacks have a higher chance to hit, and you can kind of build up to the stronger attacks and you'll be more likely to hit. Man, there's a lot going on. Honestly, I kind of don't like when RPGs have a lot going on gameplay-wise. I really appreciate just a simplistic, turn-based battle system. Xenoblade Chronicles X, that was one of my gripes with the game, is that it just had so much going on, and you didn't even have to engage with a lot of it. Like, there were some systems I just ignored in that game. I don't know, I have a complicated relationship with that thing, because I can appreciate that it's there. Some people will love going super in-depth and going all into that kind of stuff for, like, late-game bosses, post-credits bosses. I'm not that kind of RPG player. I don't really go into the super bosses. I guess for those people that do, they can really appreciate that kind of thing, but I don't. I like having something super simple, and that's it. But I really liked Chrono Cross's battle system. There's a lot going on, and I feel like I could get a good grasp on it. It was kind of complex at first, because I described all that stuff, and I didn't even, like when I saw the element grid, I didn't even know what I was looking at. It's like, wait, I just didn't even know what to think. But once I understood it, it made sense, and I liked it. I liked it. There was a lot going on, and it felt like it all worked together well. Leveling up in this game is unique. There's no grinding. That's the big thing. And you know, some RPGs will have like, where you don't need to grind, but you could if you really wanted to, if you wanted to become overleveled. You cannot grind in Chrono Cross. It is physically impossible for you to grind. I mean, I guess you technically could get money, like if you want to grind to get money for battles, but XP doesn't exist in this game. The only time you, quote, level up is when you defeat a main boss through the story. Like you go through a dungeon and there's like a big boss at the end. All the RPGs have that. Instead of getting a big dump of XP from that boss, you're just automatically given a level up. And that's kind of how it gates your progression. That's how you gain stats, is you beat a boss, you get a big stat bump. Beat another boss, 40 minutes later, you get another stat bump. After that, you can, I think if you kill like 5 random small mobs after that, you get tiny increases to your stats. But the main big increases are after, important bosses. It's kind of interesting. Does that make sense how I described it? Because it's weird. It's different for an RPG. I haven't seen anything like this. Because like the core RPG thing is like you have XP. Like when I think of RPGs, I think like, okay, you got items to equip, you got armor, you got spells, and you got XP, you got levels. And this game doesn't really have either of those. On one hand, it's cool. It's like different. I like the idea of not even having to worry if I'm underleveled or overleveled. I don't even have to consider that. I think I read somewhere, I don't remember why I was reading up on this, but I saw like that was a main thing for the developers of this game. They wanted that. They didn't want you to have to grind. But on the other hand, I don't know, there's something weird about it. I don't like that you don't have the ability to grind. You don't have the ability at all to overlevel. I'm trying to think of what ways you could become overpowered, because grinding in RPGs, that's a way to, if you're having a difficult time, you could go, if a boss is giving you a hard time, you can go out and fight trash mobs for a while, and that'll put you, just a little bit above the curve, above the difficulty level for where that boss is supposed to be. And you're not able to do that in Chrono Cross. I guess it's not that big of a deal because I never felt like any fight was too difficult. Well, one fight I felt was too difficult, but that was like I think that's the most difficult boss in the game I tried to fight. It was, for those who don't know, it was on an island. On a mysterious island that you gotta easily missable. I'm sure if you guys have played, you might know what I'm talking about. But for the main story progression, I didn't feel like I needed to grind. The difficulty felt perfect. But some weird side effect of that is, like I said, you don't need to fight low-level enemies to level up. You get money and you get materials and you get spells, so that's cool. But you don't get XP. And that kind of removed the incentive for me to do random battles. Why would I fight with these random-ass enemies in the world if it's not contributing to me getting stronger? So I would just avoid a lot of them. And I guess I do kind of do that in other games too, once I'm like, okay, I don't want to fight any of these guys. I'm going to do my best to skirt around them or even run from a battle from them if I do get caught. I don't know, it felt like battling is the way you engage with the game. It's the gameplay. But I felt like I had no reason to fight random mobs. I don't know, it's weird. I guess it's not that big of a problem. It's kind of easy to avoid them, and then there's some enemies will have a pattern where you gotta watch and pay attention, okay, They take this path, and then if I quickly, run this way, I'll avoid them and I don't have to fight them. I guess you don't need to fight every enemy. It's not like it's a problem or anything. It's just a feature of the game. I guess it's not that bad. Just an interesting thing I thought, where it's like, if you avoid every fight in most RPGs, you're going to eventually be underleveled. But if you avoid every fight in this game, it's not that big of a problem. I guess outside of like the battle system, this game has an old school adventure game feel, in that there's not a lot of guidance. There were a lot of points in the story where the characters are like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, wait, what? Go where? What do I do? Where? The world, it's not big, but there's a lot of places to go. And sometimes it just doesn't tell you where to go. Eventually, sometimes the characters will say something like, they'll kind of hint at it as if you're supposed to know where to go. Like in World Surge, the main character knows where to go because he has, he's living through this. He knows, he remembers things that have happened in the past. But me, I play this game for a couple hours and I go do some other stuff. I go play another game. I go for a walk. I go outside, touch grass. And I forget, like, oh God, what was this plot point of? Because there was a specific point in the story where one of the characters says, like, the conversation's winding down. They're like, okay, it's time to go back to where this all started. I was like, come again? That's all the direction you're given. And eventually I narrowed it down to where I was supposed to go. But when I got there, I'm like, wait, now what? I'm like pressing the X button to interact with the obvious thing that changed, but nothing's happening. And then you press a button to bring up your item list, and there's like 50 different items. And that's like one of the ways you can interact in this world is you're given a list of items that you collect throughout your adventure, and you can use those items on, places in the world or other characters. And the longer you play the game, the more items you accumulate, and then the more places you can use those items. And it's just easy to get lost. It's an easy game to get lost in. Eventually I figured it out, but I said this in the Parasite Eve video. I don't mind a game not having waypoints. I don't want something on the screen that tells me, hey, go here, go to this exact point, do this exact thing, and that's that. I like having a bit of... Honestly, I do kind of like the direction of, let's go back to where this all started. I like that as like a character giving you a hint, but you still have to figure it out yourself. Like I said, it's a little bit of an old school adventure game feel. You have to use your brain. But sometimes the hints are just too abstract, they're too obscure. And I didn't pick up what the game was putting down. Like it expected me to know, but I couldn't quite tie it together. I don't know, it's just kind of annoying. I guess back into the old school game feel, there's a lot of obscure missable thing. There's a lot of obscure party members you can miss. There are so many party members in this game, and some of the ways to get them are just so out there. From a modern gamer perspective, I don't like to miss things. I hate missables in games. I like to see all the content a game has. That's mostly because I don't replay games. Like I'm trying to... Okay. I guess I am technically replaying a game right now that I've played before, but we'll talk about that later. For the most part, I don't like to replay games. I don't like stuff where it's like there's this cool character you could get, but if you don't do the right thing at the right time with the right item, they're gone. I don't like that. And this game does have a lot of that, and honestly, it's kind of cool. I acknowledge that that's a personal problem with me. I don't like replaying games. I know a lot of people out there do, and they get a lot of value from that. But I don't. I want to experience new things. And that's just who I am. And I don't know, missable stuff and like hard to follow stuff like that in this game, it doesn't mesh with me in that way. But from like an abstract perspective, I can kind of appreciate it. There's also like branching paths all over this game. Like I remember there was one point in Termina, the first like major town you're introduced to. And it's like, okay, we need to get into this mansion. How do we do it? there's a couple different ways you can achieve that goal. There's a couple different ways to sneak in. You can go through the front door, you can go through a jungle. I think there's something else. And each of those paths is associated with a character. And if you side with that character, if you take the path that they, guide you along, I'm pretty sure there's 2 other characters. Those guys are locked out. You don't get to recruit them. And like I just said, it's like more of that missable stuff. I kind of don't like that. But from an objective standpoint, I can acknowledge that's kind of cool. You don't see choice like that in games is kind of rare. And I appreciate it. I appreciate this game giving a meaningful choice. There's a handful of meaningful choices in this game I don't really want to get into because of spoilers, but this is one of those RPGs where it feels like your choices matter. And that means a lot. That means a lot for an RPG. Okay, time to talk about the story. I didn't know anything going into Chrono Cross. Which is, maybe on me, because I've played Chrono Trigger before. I know Chrono is it's like time. It's time stuff. And honestly, I'd even listened to the soundtrack before. I love the soundtrack to this game. I've loved it for long before I even played it. I've been using it in my videos back when I did use game music in my videos. I used songs from this game for a while. And I knew there was a song titled, it was something like Arnie Village, Another World. And for some reason, I never really realized that meant there's like 2 worlds in this game. That's the hook. Serge, he exists in his own little world. And then at some point early on in the story, he gets sent to another dimension, another version of his world. And that's the hook of the game. There's these 2 worlds that you travel between and you get to see the differences between them. I thought that was super cool. I almost wanted to say, when I was writing my notes, I almost wanted to say that I couldn't think of an RPG that's done this, but A Link to the Past did this. And I'm sure there's others that have done it too, but it's interesting to see in like an RPG like this, where it's like super focused on the characters and the world and the plot, and you really get to explore what it means to have like 2 different versions of the same world. This game really explores that, and it's super interesting. Now that I think about it, this game does something kind of interesting with that, in that it kind of holds back on you seeing similar places in the 2 worlds for a while. Does that make sense? Like Arnie Village is Serge's home, and you start the game in there, and then you get sent to the other world pretty early on in the game, and then you immediately get to see the other Arnie Village. But after that, the game kind of keeps you from seeing the same places in the other world. Like Termina Village, that's an early place you get to visit, and I think it's the other world. But in your home world, you don't get to go there until much later in the game. And of course, it's a lot different. And like the manor you get to visit, some of the islands. I like how it gates stuff off. It does a pretty good job of, keeping your interest going of like, oh, I just visited this location. I wonder what it looks like in the other world. And it kind of builds up tension of like, I don't know what's going to happen. And you got to wait a while until you actually do see it. And then inevitably, it's kind of a cool twist. The momentum of the story did kind of slow down a bit partway through, though. I'll kind of talk more specifically about it later, but it's not a huge deal. I feel like RPGs always have that, where the beginning's interesting, there's all these mysteries you want to find out, and you don't know what's going on, and it's just, you're along for the ride. And then middle way, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay, we're just kind of going through the paces. And then the late game reveals start to happen, and then it really, gets crazy. The midway point, I'm not going to say it's always slow, but it's more likely to be slow than the beginning or the end. It's fine. It's not a huge deal. Characters. There are a lot of characters in this game. I think there are like 40 party members you can recruit. That's crazy. I'm not a huge, traditionally, I should say, Traditionally, I'm not a huge fan of games that have a lot of party members like that, because I feel like it's hard to really focus on them. You know, characters, they don't get special moments when there's so many of them, or they're so brief it just kind of brushes over them. That was one of my critiques with Xenoblade Chronicles X, is that I never really felt connected with the characters. There's so many of them, and just blah. I don't care. But in Chrono Cross, they did feel developed. I did resonate with a lot of these guys. I guess obviously, you know, there's some core party members. You know, there's Surge, there's Kid. Who are some others? I'm trying to think of any other, like, core party members that definitely join. It's been like a month since I played this game, so it's kind of leaving my mind. Well, whatever. You know, I'd say there's like a scale of party members where there's like ones you're definitely likely to recruit, and then as you go down, there's like more obscure characters that you probably aren't going to notice without looking up a guide, or being on your like third playthrough or whatever. But the more obvious, the more likely you are to interact with a party member, I feel like the more developed they are. You know, like there's well, whatever. I won't get into specifics, but I feel like a lot of the characters in this game, they have a lot going on. And it's kind of fun to see them interact with alternate versions of themselves. I guess that's what gives each of these characters depth, because most of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but I can't think of any, maybe one or two that exist in one world but don't exist in the other. Because most of them have alternate versions of themselves. And seeing them interact with each other, that's a quick way to give them depth. And because most of them have that, most of them feel like they have depth. It works. It's a good shortcut to giving characters, making them feel meaningful. Because they can talk to each other and like, yo, what are you doing? You need to chill out. I wouldn't act like this. So you, even though you're not technically me, you're kind of me, you need to chill out. And seem like an alternate version of someone giving themselves like a stern talking to, it's fun. It's fun. Something I feel like the games that have a lot of party members don't quite get right is like them interacting with each other. Because when there's so many, like how many party members does Final Fantasy VI have? It has a lot. I guess I probably shouldn't speak on it. It's been so long since I've played it. But games like that, I feel like it's easy for most party members to not get a lot of dialogue. Where there'll be one line written for them, and then they'll chime in real quick, and then they'll go back to being silent for like an hour or two. And you can tell, like, okay, there's so many party members, the writers of this game they couldn't give one character a lot, or else then the other characters would feel like they were left out. So each character has to have at least a couple lines, and then they shut up. If each party member in Chrono Cross had the same level of dialogue as a character from like Final Fantasy VII, that'd be impossible. There's like 7 or 8 party members in Final Fantasy VII. Meanwhile, there's like 40 in Chrono Cross. Not every character in this game can have that much dialogue. Despite that, it still felt like each character had something to say. It didn't feel like characters are being left out and then they'd chime in for one line and then they'd go back to being silent. I mean, maybe they kind of did, but it didn't bother me. What they said was meaningful, and I guess you could go out of your way to find, you know, spots in the world where they'd have more to say. As regards to, you know, you recruit some fairy out there and it might not have much to say about the main plot. But, you know, if you keep Kid in your party, she might have a lot to say. So yeah, some party members don't have as much to say as others, but it still worked. It still felt like when they did say something, it was meaningful. Look, I might have lied in the thumbnail. This video is going to have spoilers, but I'm keeping it to a specific section here, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, if you haven't played this game, just skip ahead to the timecode on screen. Don't worry, I'll give you seconds, just in case you're, I don't know, listening on your phone while you're doing something else. Alright, hopefully you skipped ahead. So, I guess these are like about specific moments and just specific things in the story that I wanted to talk about. I didn't really buy into the relationship between Surge and Kid. It's something that kind of caught me off guard that it was trying to do in the later parts of the game. I guess super early on, I thought Surge was with that other girl. I even forget her name. It seems like they're super close. Maybe not, together. Seems like there's something there. And then she just kind of drops away from the story. I looked it up, and apparently there's like this kid, she shows up on the cliffside, and if you don't let her join your party, she'll go away. And then the girl from the beginning, you go back to your village and she joins your party. And then I guess she probably didn't have that much to say, actually. Like, she joins and she'll probably chime in here and there, but she probably doesn't stay super relevant. It's obvious Kid is meant to replace her in the plot. At first, they're kind of just friends, but then the game tries to, put this, romantic spin on it, and I don't buy it. Surge and Kid never really get close. I think of relationships in RPGs, I think of Cloud and Tifa. And this is not a Cloud and Tifa situation. Even like a Cloud and Aerith. Way back in the day, people would probably be talking about who should Cloud get with? Should it be Tifa or Aerith? And both of them, Cloud with Tifa or with Aerith, they both have chemistry. And you feel that chemistry, and they talk and they have banter. And you could see either of them truly being romantically together. Surge and Kid have no chemistry in this game. I just did not feel it. And I think a main part of that is because Surge, the main character, is a silent protagonist. He doesn't talk. And because of that, you don't get to see their chemistry. Kid does a lot of talking. She's talking at you, but you don't get the double-sided banter. You don't get him bouncing off of her. It's like she's talking at you. You don't get to feel the relationship from both sides. It's weird. I don't buy it. The game ends with this as an emotional beat. It's like, Kid says something like, I'll find you, and no matter the world, no matter where we are, I'll find you. And it's obvious they want this to be an emotional thing. God, I played a game like this recently. It ended on a similar note. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was a movie. Oh no, it wasn't even an end. It was a Everything Everywhere All at Once. Where it was in another world, I would have been happy to just run a laundromat with you, or whatever it is. Where it's these people finding relationships across dimensions, across worlds. And that's such a strong idea. The idea of finding your true love across any world, any dimension, that's strong. And they want to evoke that in this game, and I didn't feel it. It isn't that satisfying of an ending. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. I'm probably just repeating myself. I didn't feel it wants you to feel the relationship between these two, but I didn't feel it. I think this is my favorite moment in the game. The transformation into Lynx. This was awesome. So this is at the point in the story where the game starts out with you in this short little dungeon. You go through it, and then at the end of it, you wake up, and then the game continues along. But then later on in the story, you reach that point of where Surge was dreaming or whatever, and you're actually going through the dungeon. It's just okay, something big's about to happen. Because we just got that feeling. When the game opens up on something and then acts don't worry about it. And then it comes back, it's okay, holy shit, this is... When a game opens on a specific scene and then it returns to that means something. Shit's about to go down. And shit did go down. So, there's this pre-rendered cutscene of Surge grabbing his head and freaking out, and Lynx is just kind of looking at him. And then after that, it goes back to gameplay. And Kid's freaking out. She's like, Surge, what did Lynx do to you? Are you okay? Are you good? And then there's a pause. Surge calmly says, yes, I'm fine. He talks. I just established that Surge is a silent protagonist. And then he says something. Something's up there. And then the game just, kind of stops for a second. Party members move behind Surge like they do after every, other dialogue sequence. Nobody says anything. And people, they're just standing there. They're just standing there, and you don't You're like, what? What's happening? I'm like, okay. You move the control stick. Link's is the one who moves. That's just the most insane reveal ever. Admittedly, you do kind of know that's where it's going, because during the pre-rendered cutscene, Surge will turn his head up and you can see he's got like evil eyes. And, you know, it's pretty obvious at that point. I wouldn't say pretty odd, but you know something's up with Link's and him. But that moment where you move the control stick and then Link's moves, Surge stands still, Link's, the bad guy you've been chasing after this whole game, he moves, you're controlling him. That's insane. That's a crazy moment. And I only realized this after, but a super cool detail. Up until the point where you move as Link's, the camera is centered on Surge. When you move the control stick and Link's moves, the camera, you know, pans up a little bit to center on Link's. I didn't even notice that in the moment, but, you know, in retrospect, it's kind of a framing thing where it's like, okay, the camera's framed on Surge because you're Surge. But oh, no, you're Link's. Then it moves up to center on you. And that's when it's telling you, like, okay, you're stuck as this guy. That was such a cool moment, man. It's kind of hard for me to play games and not have things spoiled. Like Final Fantasy VII, before I first played it years ago, pretty sure I knew all the big twists. It's hard not to get spoiled on twists for, you know, games that have been around for so long, games that are like so iconic. But I guess Chrono Cross is in this weird position where people like it, but it's kind of slightly more underground. It's really good, but people don't talk about it as much. For whatever reason, I don't know. It's really good. So somehow I avoided all these years knowing that you play as Link's for a good part of this game, and I really love that. I thought that was super cool. Unfortunately, the game did lose me a bit after this. This is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. This is where the momentum of the plot does kind of lose me. I feel like there should be momentum at this point for you to get your body back. You know, Link stole your body. He's impersonating you out in the world. And I feel like there should be like this push to go after him, to get it, to get your body back. And there just isn't. It feels like you just meander around after that, doing whatever. You know, maybe it's like kind of tangentially related to getting your body back. But I don't know, I just didn't feel this push that there should have been. There should have been a push, but there wasn't one. And the game kind of lost me at that point, but I eventually pushed through and then things got back to normal. I was happy. I don't know how to feel about this. The tying in of stuff from Chrono Trigger. Huh. I wasn't really expecting this in the game. I knew obviously they were in the same series, but I knew it wasn't a direct sequel. Like, you weren't playing as Chrono and Luca and Marl and all that. I knew that much. But I didn't really expect the like story beats to tie into Chrono Trigger. I wasn't expecting it, and admittedly it was cool to see all the old characters again. It was cool to go in Luca's home and, you know, just explore that place, and what was it, you're saving the kids in there or something? I don't have much to say about it. It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about the happy ending of Chrono Trigger being retconned to, like, be sad. It's been a while since I played, but I'm pretty sure at the end of that game, if you do the best ending, it's like you defeat Lavos and you save the world. Everything's good, everyone can live happily ever after. But in this game, it turns out if you do that ending in Chrono Trigger, it like negatively affects the world in this game? I don't know, I'm gonna be honest, some of the plot revelations towards the end of Chrono Cross kind of lost me. I guess that's just the nature of time travel and like alternate dimensions where like shit's gonna get confusing. And it kind of lost me a little bit. I couldn't follow some of the reveals and the timeline of what was going on, but it's a weird feeling for it to kind of change the context of the ending of Chrono Trigger. It's kind of like when people talk about the Star Wars prequels ruining the original trilogy, or the sequels ruining the original trilogy movies, where it's like this, the original piece is recontextualized by a new release. And I don't know, I guess if you can enjoy it in isolation, it's not that big of a deal. It's just an interesting evolution of what happened in Chrono Trigger. It's interesting. Alright, that's it for the spoiler section. Welcome back, all you non-spoiled people. We're going to talk about the final aspect of this game, the other stuff. This is something I like to talk about for every RPG because every RPG I'm going to want to talk about the gameplay. I'm going to want to talk about the story and the characters. But I feel like every RPG out there has something unique to it that makes it special. And I guess that's what developers hope for, is they want to make their RPG stand out in some way, in one way at least. And in Chrono Cross, I want to talk about the vibes. The vibes of Chrono Cross are insane. Like, first off, the intro video to this game, it's the best I've ever seen. Hands down. I know I did say in the Parasite Eve tour that the Parasite Eve intro might be one of my favorites. Chrono Cross's intro is my favorite. It gets me so hyped. Just seeing like this montage of visuals. Oh my god. The music. Look, I'm not a music guy. I can't talk about music in a thoughtful way. I like TV, I like movies, I like games, I even do a little bit of reading on the side. And, I listen to music too. I can talk about all those earlier things, but I cannot talk about music. I cannot tell you why I love the music in this game. I don't know the technical details of what they did to make it sound so good, how it fits to the visuals. I can't explain it. I just know that this music is some of the best in any game. It fits so well. If you've listened to the music from this game, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to convey that to someone who hasn't played the game or listened to the music. Just go listen to the music yourself. Go watch the intro on YouTube right now. Wait, not right now. After this video. After this video, go watch the opening to Chrono Cross. Even if you have played this game, go watch it. You deserve a rewatch of that opening. It is so good. I don't know, it's just emotional. The music in this game is so emotional to me. It's so nostalgic. I just think about if I had played this game when I was a kid, this would have been a formative experience for me. I can't imagine what it would have been like if I had played this when I was a kid. And the environmental design is just so beautiful. The backgrounds in this game are insane. This is a later PS1 game, and they are firing on all cylinders when it comes to making just beautiful environments. Some are, relatively mundane. Actually, I don't even want to say that. Even areas that you would expect to be mundane, like just a beach. There's just so much crazy detail to it. I love it, man. This is kind of why I really wanted to make a tour on this game, just because there's so many beautiful, just insanely designed environments. I wanted to show all those off for a tour, but, just for whatever reason, I couldn't bring myself to write about it. There's just such an artistry to it. If you've been watching this video, you've seen with your own eyes just how beautiful this game can be. And with all that tied together, the music, the environmental design, the characters, the vibes, it's just such a cozy game. It's immaculate. I can't, it's indescribable. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. If I can't describe it, I'm not even gonna try. You gotta play this game. So it's time for the ranking. How does this game compare against the RPGs I've played for the channel so far? This is tough. Xenoblade Chronicles is the best RPG I've played for the channel so far. I really love that game. The characters are great, the plot is great, the world is great, the gameplay, there's so much going for it. And compared to Chrono Cross, I think I loved the characters in Xenoblade more. Relationships felt more fleshed out. Which, makes sense, because it's both a longer game and it has a smaller cast. Makes sense. It's like 50, 60 hours for Xenoblade, and I got through Chrono Cross in like 20 or 30. So there's just more time to explore all those characters and their relationships with one another. I love the characters in that game more. And characters are what I look to in games. Characters are how you experience the world. They're how you experience the plot. I don't know, characters are just always what I look to in games to kind of... It's usually my barometer for how much I will enjoy a game is how much I enjoy the characters. And I like the characters in Xenoblade more. But the feeling I was left with Chrono Cross was better. The vibes are truly unmatched in this game. Despite the characters not being as, like, fleshed out as Xenoblade, the overall feeling of Chrono Cross, the complete package of it, you know, the story mixed with the characters, mixed with the music, mixed with the pre-rendered cutscenes and the backgrounds and everything, it's unmatched. Chrono Cross is the best RPG ever. So far. Who knows what could top it? I don't know. I got a ton more games to play. So what will be covered next? You know, earlier I alluded to a game that I'm playing right now that I had played in the past. And it's what I'm going to cover next on the channel. You know what it is? Oh boy, it's it's going to be a difficult discussion at the end of next video. I just know that much when it comes to the ranking. But the next game I'm going to cover is Chrono Trigger. Whew. I'm not looking forward to this. Which is going to be better, Chrono Cross or Chrono Trigger? You know, I'm not finished with Chrono Trigger yet. I'm getting close. But I think I know which is my favorite. Guess you'll just have to wait and see. Subscribe for more of these. Yeah, it was fun putting this together. I definitely like doing this as a way to get my thoughts out there in a game. I miss this. Subscribe. Leave a comment if you got anything else you want me to talk about. You know, just any topic, really. It doesn't have to be about RPGs. Yeah, like, look at some of my older rambling videos I did. There's all kinds of... I just miss talking about topics, you know? It's fun to do unscripted stuff in addition to, you know, the scripted stuff for the main channel. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening to me ramble about Chrono Cross. If you haven't played it, go play it yourself. I loved this game. You'll love it too. Thanks for watching. See you Predizens next time.